I'm going to share openly and honestly about my chemo journey. It's been 2 years since my last treatment. Come see how much has changed. Just after turning 40, Cissy got her first mammogram and a breast cancer diagnosis. Cissy shares her journey.
I want to talk to you guys about chemo, and I've been trying to record this video, but I just need to be honest. I'm sitting here and I'm nervous about what I look like. I'm nervous about what the background looks like. I'm nervous that you're going to see that I've gained a little bit of weight. I'm nervous about what my chest looks like, if I'm completely honest. So I'm sitting here trying to talk to you about chemo, but what I'm worried about is what I look like on film. So let's just get it out there. I weigh more than I would like, and I feel like in these videos you can tell, but here it is. I feel like my arms are bigger than I'd want them to be, but they are. The surgery and everything, this isn't as tight, and it probably never will be, and I can't even feel that right there, so that just is what it is. Here's the background. We're at the marina. There's beautiful water behind us. This is one of my happy places. So that's what it is. This is me trying to film, trying not to be self-conscious. My hair's grown out and I'm really happy about it, but if I'm honest, there's still this weird spot where it flips back here and it's not totally grown. Starting to get wrinkles I didn't have. My eyebrows didn't grow back in as full as they once were. Not that that's that big of a deal, but these are the things that I'm worried about. I don't want to be worried about those things. I just wanted to be open and honest and talk about chemo and my journey, and that I'm doing better. Clearly it doesn't look like it, but that's what I really wanted to do. So I guess when it comes down to it, is chemo's rough. Life after chemo gets better, promise, but it still has its lasting side effects. You still have the emotions over it. You still have side effects such as weight gain or just your body being shaped differently, if that's chemo, if that's the hormone drugs I'm on, if that's the surgery, if it's just not feeling like yourself, and like putting stuff out there to be judged, which you know, it's fine. Like, we can all say as much as we want, we don't care what people think about us, and mostly I don't, but a little bit I do, if I'm honest. So this can be scary. The reason I'm doing these videos isn't about me, and it isn't about how I look. It's about breast cancer, and it's about awareness, especially for women under the age of 50. I was diagnosed freshly after my 40th birthday. Like, this can happen to you at a young age. It's very important that you get screened and that you know that it can. And the other reason I want to talk about it is for those people that are going through it. Maybe they need to hear from somebody else. They will need to see that somebody is doing okay 2 years later. And I am, I promise. I'm doing way better. Or maybe you know somebody who's going through it and you don't know how they're doing. And they might not want to tell you, and it's not because they don't love you or they're not friends with you. It's just, it's hard. You want to be strong and you want to be this warrior and you want everything to be okay, and some days it's just not. Some days are just hard, especially with chemo, and that's okay. And if you're going through this, about to go through this, just went through it, it's okay if you have some hard days. It's okay. I had hard days. I had some side effects that weren't fun, some side effects that I don't like to talk about, some side effects that I don't like to admit. Some might be from Zoladex. It's a shot that I took for 6 months. Some might be from chemo. I started taking Zoladex right after chemo, so it's sometimes hard to know which is which. But it's not fun to say that I gained 50 pounds, I guess it was. That's not fun, 50 pounds. I don't want to admit that to you. But if you're going to see the pictures, you're going to see that I gained weight. So yeah, I gained 50 pounds. I've taken most of that off, but not all of it. And my body's just shaped differently now. And it's hard. It's hard. It's hard to do these videos and see yourself. It's hard to admit these things. It's hard to say I was afraid of an elevator and an escalator. Like, what is scary about an escalator? I don't know, but I was terrified. It's hard to admit those kind of things. And there's like so much that I wanted to say and express, but when I have my notes and then when I try and say it, like, I feel like it comes across like as a reporter, and it's not really true. Now I'm gonna need to get a tissue out of my faded wristlet here. So I got 4 rounds of chemo. I got my hair cut at about day 7. So it wouldn't be as traumatic when it was falling out in long strands, short strands. Not sure that really helped. Might have just made the cleanup easier, but let's be honest, it was still traumatic. While my hair was falling out, while I could go like this and there were big clumps, we went on a road trip and celebrated a friend's birthday. And had fun, but it was a really tough weekend to try and act like everything was fine when I was waking up to handfuls of hair on the pillow, when I wasn't going to wash my hair the whole weekend because I was afraid if I did it would all fall out. That was rough. It was rough to look in the mirror and see patches of baldness. That was probably one of the hardest things to do. But yet I held on to that little bit of hair for a little longer, and I wore a cute little scarf to my second chemo. And I think that's the only picture of me in a scarf, because I felt like I looked sick in those. So after that chemo, we shaved my head. And that's when I started to feel a little bit better. Like I had a little control, and now I looked a little bit fierce. Like I was ready to battle this. And I didn't look as sick in the mirror. But I don't have a lot of pictures of getting chemo or being in the chemo room, because it was hard. It was hard to be there, it was hard to do, and it was hard to document. My husband at one time said, I really think you should be keeping a journal during this whole chemo thing of how you're feeling and what's happening. And I couldn't do it. Like, I couldn't write it down. I don't think I fully wanted to remember. Like, I do remember parts of it, but I don't think I wanted to remember exactly everything. And when I think back on it now, I can remember how it felt that first morning when I had vertigo. And it was scary. It was scary. I felt like I couldn't get out of the bed. I felt like I didn't have control. There's some hard days. I missed out on doing things that I wanted to do. And then I did get to do some fun things. We tried to do something fun like the weekend before the next treatment each time, because that's when I would feel the best. And we did. We did some fun stuff. We went to Chicago, went to Lambeau Field, celebrated a friend's birthday. Then we celebrated another friend's birthday right before my last treatment. And that was really fun. And the sad thing about, I don't know what the right word is going to say, but that friend has since been diagnosed with breast cancer. So while I was at her 40th birthday with my bald head, she had no idea that in 18 months she was going to have the same thing. So if you're under the age of 50 and you don't have breast cancer diagnosis and you're watching this, please make sure you're getting screened. Please make sure you're getting your mammogram. It can happen to you. And if it does, and if you're going through this, don't let my emotion scare you. You can do this. You can get through this. I just want it to be known that it's okay to have hard days. And it's okay to have these weird side effects and have them upset you. It's okay that the fact that you have hiccups is a side effect, which seems like not that big of a deal, to actually be upsetting. To when you're finally asleep and to wake up in the middle of the night with these very, very strong hiccups, to be upset by that. Because it's just one more thing. It's okay that when you hear the beep, 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 that new shot's about to go off, that you get a little depressed because you know more pain is coming. You know more side effects. You know your bones are gonna hurt. Those are okay feelings to have. And if you're out there, I hope you have a support system. I hope that there are people that are there for you, because that is really important during this. So if you're a friend or family member, just make sure you're there for them. Just be there to listen without expectations. Because my big sisters are strong. I'm strong. We can do this. We will do this. We will get through it. But there will be times that won't be easy. I'm going back for my tissue. So yes, chemo is hard, but you can do it. I did it. I'm 2 years out. I'm feeling much better. There are still some side effects I have, such as neuropathy, weight gain. Sometimes I'm emotional. Maybe that's because of the situation. Maybe it's the medicine I'm on. I don't know. But overall, I'm doing well. I really like to live each day. I look for the positives. I get happy over the little things. Try not to sweat the small stuff as much. All those cliches. But it's true. I couldn't even look at coffee during chemo. I know that seems strange, but like even the smell of it, I just couldn't do. Probably took me, goodness, maybe 3 months post chemo to even be able to drink it. But now I'm back to drinking coffee every day. And those first few minutes, hour of the day where we sit together and drink coffee are some of my favorite, because it's quiet and it's peaceful, and I can just relax, drink my coffee, think about the day, not have a lot of stress. And I do relish that. I do love that time. And this time here at the boat right now, it is so relaxing. The water is beautiful, it's peaceful. And although we're not doing a whole lot like a lot of people, we are still going out on the boat, which is fun. And we're just really appreciative of the time we have together and the things that we do get to do, and worrying less about what it is we're missing or not getting to do, and focusing more on what it is we are doing in this downtime and this relaxing. So if you're going through this, I guess I just really want to say I'm doing better. 2 years out, I'm feeling better. Not perfect. I'm not back to who I was, but I'm never going to be, and that's just something I have to come to terms with. But I am happy. I am as healthy as I can be, and you can do this. You can get through this. Some of the side effects, I guess, that were surprising were vertigo. If you haven't had that, it's really not fun. Luckily, we were able to get me some prescription strength Dramamine, and that really helped. Hiccups, not fun. Not that big of a deal, but also just really weird. It's super low blood pressure a few times, like the car was making me even more tired, afraid I was going to pass out, dizzy. You have trouble eating and drinking certain things. I became obsessed with blue Powerade. So one tip I would say is if you're having trouble drinking things, like getting a lot of liquids in, try and drink something you wouldn't normally drink. Like I wasn't a big Gatorade Powerade drinker, especially not the color blue. But for some reason, I think because I didn't have an expectation of how it would taste, it just tasted good to me and I could drink a lot of it. So blue Powerade was basically my favorite thing, along with plain toast and plain baked potatoes. So just find what works for you. I have since made a lot of changes to my diet, but not during chemo. That's not when I would suggest doing it. I mean, you have to do whatever's right for you. But during chemo, I would say just eat what you can when you can. And once you're starting to feel better, if you want to make any changes, then you can think about it, but not during that time.
A little background. I was diagnosed with breast cancer after my first mammogram, which I had just shortly after my 40th birthday. I had 4 rounds of chemo, the TC Chemo, Taxotere, and Cytoxin.
The 2 drugs do different things, and I want to make sure I get this right. So one damages the structure of the cancer cells, so that stops the growth and division of the breast cancer cells. The other works to damage the DNA of the resting cancer cells, so they're unable to keep dividing. Chemo kills rapidly dividing cells, so that's things like your skin and your mouth, and that is why your hair ends up falling out, because the skin cells are rapidly dividing and they get killed off by the chemo. But I'm not going to talk all about these science terms. I just wanted to give you a little background on the chemo I received and what chemo in general does. If I think back to that first chemo treatment I got, before we even set foot at OSU that day, I took some medicine. There were steroids and other pre-meds that I took in the days leading up to the chemo. I was very nervous the night before, thinking about the next day and getting the chemo and the IV, but we went there. I had an IV put in my hand. I did not have a port, which was both good and bad. You know, ports have their issues, but trying to get an IV each time was challenging for me. And I ended up with some side effects there as well. But before they even give you the chemo, they give you some drugs, one of which was Benadryl. So in that first chemo treatment, that really helped me to just relax and fall asleep. With the TC, some people have an adverse reaction to it, so you have to slow down the drip. So I started to have a little bit of that reaction with the first one, but they were able to just slow down the drip, and that really helped. But that just means for a longer day that we were at the hospital and then had the drive back to Cincinnati as well. Another thing they do after you finish getting your chemo is they put this patch on you that has a little needle in it, and it's a Neulasta shot. And what happens is 24 hours after they put it on, it will then inject into your system. And the purpose of that is to help boost your white blood cell count so your immune system isn't as down. So, you know, that's great that that medicine is able to do that, but it does come with some of its own side effects. So it got to the point that when I knew that was coming, the little device that was on your stomach actually beeped a few times before the medicine went in when you got to that 24-hour mark. So that got to be something that would make me a little bit anxious when it started to beep, because I knew that the medicine was about to go in and I was going to be feeling worse and more side effects were going to be impacting me. The biggest one being bone pain. So it's a side effect of the Neulasta. Your bones really hurt, they ache, your joints, and that is not fun, especially on top of the other chemo side effects that you are feeling.
Early on in my journey, I was not as open on social media. I had only told family and some close friends. But once I realized I'd be losing my hair, I decided I needed to be more open on social media. Here's what I first posted on Facebook. The outpouring of support from friends and family was amazing and very much appreciated. From here is where I knew I wanted to be a voice and an advocate for breast cancer awareness. I wanted to let younger women know that they could get this diagnosis and encourage them to get their mammogram.
In mid-October, shortly after my last chemo, was a breast cancer awareness walk. So I did do the walk. I walked very slow. It was hard. I got tired easily. I was both cold and hot during the whole thing, but I walked with fellow survivors and we made it to the end. So it was a great event. It was fun to do, and it was good to spend time with my friend who walked with me and just talk about some of the things we had gone through. She was about a year ahead of me in the process, so it's nice to have somebody you can talk to who has been there and really understands what's going on.
A rare video of me bald. This is something I saved down in Snapchat. As you may have noticed, a lot of these photos in this video are from Snapchat. I didn't do a great job of documenting being bald and the process. Here I'm singing Destiny's Child, Say My Name, on a way to a doctor's appointment, but I took the volume down because my singing voice is not great.
In early November, I started having a lot of pain in my right arm, and that is the arm where they had taken the lymph node. So we were concerned about that, kept an eye on it, and it ended up swelling up a bit. So after a call to Ohio State, we ended up at the ER at UC for them to take a look at it. They were concerned that possibly I had a blood clot, which could be a side effect from the chemo. It was late in the evening, so there was not a lot that they could do in the ER, but they scheduled me to get an ultrasound the next day, where luckily a blood clot was ruled out. So we ended up just doing a little bit of physical therapy on my arm and wrapping it, and the swelling went down. So luckily, that's not something that I deal with anymore, although I am constantly checking my arm to see if I think it's swollen and doing things like this to keep my lymph node system moving. So it's definitely a concern I have that at any point in time my arm could swell and I could get lymphedema since the lymph nodes were removed. We had an opportunity to go to Australia in the month of November. So I was just under a month out of my last chemo. So we talked with my doctors, we called the insurance company, made sure it was okay if we went. We knew the hospital in Melbourne that we would have to go to if anything were to happen, and got clearance to go ahead and go to Australia. So the trip was amazing. We did a lot of great things, and we were there for about 22 days. But what I don't talk about a lot is of those 22 days, I spent 3 of them in bed. There were 3 full days that I didn't leave the Airbnb and I didn't do anything but rest because I had done so much. In particular, we went to a day trip to St. Kilda, which was a beautiful beach town, gorgeous. The beach was fun. There was so much to see and do, but the heat was really getting to me. I had 0 tolerance for heat and I was melting. So we ended up finding a nice cool restaurant, having a couple of drinks and some lunch, and just waiting for a few hours for the heat of the day to pass and for me to feel better. So I mean, that's not such a bad way to spend your time, but being a person who loves the beach and loves to be out, it was really hard that I had to walk away from that and go inside somewhere to cool off. The cool part is though, I cooled off, I felt better. We made it till the time that the sun was about to set. We were able to go to the pier, and the cool thing there is they have these little blue penguins. So I'm just gonna put a picture in so you can see those fun blue penguins that I was able to see.
In the December after chemo, I was on the Zoladex shot and had my exchange surgery, which means the expanders were replaced with implants. I hadn't changed to a whole foods plant-based diet yet and couldn't go out, so my mom and I baked lots of sugar cookies. Maybe I can't blame all of that weight gain on Zoladex and chemo. Wink, wink. My hair was really starting to come in. I also wore a lot of scarves to cover up the surgical bra. I received so many amazing gifts, it was hard to keep up with thank you notes, so we included a thank you in our Christmas card. I hope everyone knows how much they meant to us. Once my hair started to come back in, we tried to have a little fun with it. Here I was comparing myself to Sinead O'Connor.
We've talked about some of the side effects, but another one I like to talk about came a little bit later, and that's neuropathy. So what neuropathy is it's kind of like a tingling. You can get it in your fingers and your toes, and it's hard to explain because it's like you can't feel them, but yet they feel like they're asleep, you know, like that kind of pins and needles feeling all at the same time. So make a lot of sense. It's the best way I know how to describe it. And the strange thing is that set in about 3 or 4 weeks, I feel like, after the last chemo. So it was in my hands lightly and then in my toes. So luckily it went away in my hands, which I'm super grateful for, but my toes had it very badly. So we were planning to go to Florida at the 1st of 2019, and as I was packing, I got out my flip-flops and tried to put them on, and there were some tears because I couldn't wear my flip-flops. Like I couldn't walk in them because I couldn't feel my toes, and I felt like I was gonna trip or fall. And that was very upsetting to me. I also couldn't wear any sort of heeled boots or anything like that winter. Everything had to be flats because it just hurt my feet and it was very uncomfortable and unsettling feeling. But even though we were going to Florida, I went ahead and packed those flip-flops, hoping that the neuropathy would get better. That's one thing they say, that it could get better over the first 6 months from chemo, but if it doesn't get better after that, you're probably stuck with it. When we made it to Florida, my mother-in-law actually gave me a pair of shoes she had. We both wear the same size, that were a special shoe for people whose feet hurt them some. And I wore those, so I have a picture of those shoes, and I wore them pretty much that whole winter that we were there. I almost called it summer. That whole winter that we were in Florida, I wore these shoes a lot, and I think that really helped. It helped with my toes to be in something that was orthopedic for them. And also over that time frame, I practiced. I wore my flip-flops in the house, and the neuropathy did get somewhat better. So I was able to eventually wear flip-flops, and I can wear flip-flops today, which is a huge win in my book. Unfortunately, some of the neuropathy is still there. My right foot is not as bad as my left foot, but it can still be pretty frustrating. And it bothers me the most at night when you lay down and the sheets touch your toes. Somehow that makes you more aware of the problem, I suppose. But it's just one of the lasting side effects that has stuck around from chemo. About the same time, another issue I was having was severe bone pain. My joints really hurt, my knees, my hip, my right shoulder really started to bother me. It was hard to sleep, my hip would hurt so much, and it was just, I wasn't walking very much. I wasn't doing a lot because all of that was very painful. So my oncologist ended up prescribing me meloxicam, which was like a daily medicine that I took that was time released, and it really seemed to help. So over the next few months, I began taking that every day. I'm not sure if the bone pain was left over from chemo or being caused by the Zoladex shot that I was also taking at this time. One more long-term side effect was that about 6 months, maybe a little bit longer even, after that last chemo is when my toenails began to fall off. So luckily my fingernails never did, and because it took so long, some new toenails had actually started to grow underneath the old toenails, so it wasn't as bad. When they fell off, you still had at least a little bit of regrowth already there. But that is another longer term side effect that you get from chemo about 6 or 7 months after your final one. In this shooting range picture, I'm smiling and I look really happy, but similar to like the problems I had with the elevator, I really was uncomfortable that day. My mother-in-law and I showed up only for the last hour of the shooting range when the boys were shooting guns, but the loud noise was just very unsettling and very hard for me to deal with. So I tried to smile and pretend like I was having a good time for that hour, but really I just was trying to get out of there and having a hard time dealing with the noise. And that's just not a problem I'd had in the past. Now, is that still something? I'm not sure because I haven't been back to a shooting range and I'm not really around that loud noises anymore. But that was something that was pretty difficult in that time period. But again, I'm not sure if that was the chemo or could have been a side effect from Zoladex. In February, our son came to Florida to visit us. We hadn't seen him since we had gone out to visit him right before my surgery, so we were super excited to see him and spend time with him, especially now that I was feeling somewhat better, still suffering from some side effects, but feeling much better than I had just a few months prior. One of the things that we wanted to do while he was there was get some family photos done. We hadn't had them done in a couple of years, so we thought it would be nice to update them. So even though I wasn't feeling great about myself, I had gained a bunch of weight, I had super short hair, I really just wanted to document this time because one of the things that cancer really makes you realize is that you are going to die at some point, and unfortunately that might be sooner than you thought. So it was really important for me to just get these pictures done at a time when I was at least somewhat healthier and we were all together and happy and having a good time, and they're great to look back on now. So I just had to get over the fact that my hair was short and my hips were bigger than I wanted them to be, and just focus on the fact that we were smiling and we were all together.
We lived life to the fullest during our Florida adventure.
Another gift that chemo gave me was in March of 2019. So it was my birthday, my 41st birthday, and I had spent the whole day in my bathing suit in the swimming pool. And when I got out, I noticed I had a couple of red bumps on my stomach, but it was right where the bathing suit hit. So I figured it had just rubbed it and made some little bumps, not much to worry about. The next day we went to Puerto Rico. So we were there for a vacation. It was super hot. We had a great time. It was gorgeous. We were doing a lot of sightseeing. One fun little sidebar is that in the picture where the water is pink was the first time I felt my hair blowing in the wind. So it was super exciting that my hair was growing, and we were having a good time. But the rash started to get a little bigger, but it was super hot, so I thought it was heat rash. We actually did some Google search and it kind of looked similar, so we just brushed it off as a heat rash and kept going. But by the time we got back to Florida, we were staying with a friend of mine, and the rash had got significantly worse. It was very painful and I wasn't feeling well. So a friend of a friend looked at a picture of it and said she thought it was shingles. It was bad enough that we tried to go to the ER that night. As it turns out, the ER was going to be an 11-hour wait, so that was not something we were going to do for shingles. So we went to the store and bought some cream, which I put on it, and actually helped me to be able to sleep that night. And first thing in the morning when urgent care opened up, because we were in Florida, not where I could get to one of my regular doctors, we went there and got the medicine. Unfortunately, I had let it go for a while because I didn't know what it was. The case was pretty bad. It took medicine quite a few days to work, and some of the pain lingered for about 6 or 8 weeks. I continued to get the zaps. If you've ever had shingles, you'll know what I mean. They're not fun. It got to the point where I actually talked with my oncologist about possibly taking a medicine for the nerve pain, but I just really did not want to take another medicine at that time, so we opted not to do it. And luckily, after about 8 or so weeks, it finally got fewer and fewer between the zaps, and then they went away. But if you fast forward to February of this year, I again was in a bathing suit in Florida and noticed a couple of the red bumps, but this time I knew right away what it was. We were able to go to urgent care, get the medicine filled, and start taking it within the first 24 hours, which is huge in terms of getting it cleared up. So the second case was way easier, less zaps, got it taken care of in just 2 or 3 days. But I will say that shingles are not fun. So chemo just keeps on giving you some surprises here and there. Throughout this, I've talked a lot about these side effects, and Zoladex I've said. So Zoladex is a shot. It's like an ovary suppression shot that I was getting. I started getting that like the 1st of November until I guess through March. So in April, we met with my oncologist, and that's when we decided to take a break. There were definitely some side effects from that I could probably attribute just to that and not to chemo. But it just wasn't positive for me. So I am still on that break with Zoladex today, and I don't have plans to go back on it. That could maybe be a whole separate thing I could talk about if anybody is interested in hearing about my experience with Zoladex. Another thing is when my hair was coming back in and it turned super curly. I was happy to have hair and trying to see the bright side of it, but that isn't always easy either, because that's not what I was used to seeing. That wasn't when I looked in the mirror. I still didn't look like me. So even though I had hair and it was coming in, it was still a little bit difficult to look in the mirror and not feel like yourself. So if that's happening to you, if you're still feeling a little off, even though you're a year out, even though you have some hair, that's okay. I completely understand it.
This is my first day wearing a hair accessory. After an all-day boat ride, we thought my hair looked a lot like this guy. What do you think? At my 1-year anniversary from my last chemo treatment, I shared this post on Facebook. I wanted to be open with the experiences I had been through, as well as let people know that I wasn't, quote, back to normal. This year at the Breast Cancer Awareness Walk, I was 1 year out of chemo and able to go much faster. Even though it rained a lot, we had a great time. About to get my first haircut, so bye-bye curls. Actually, they'll still probably be here, but we'll see. Oh my goodness, she made it straight. Look how straight it is. I had no idea. I don't know if I'll be able to do this, so you might see me with curly hair again in the future, but for today, it's straight.
It really was once I was able to start straightening my hair a little bit more that I felt more like me. And that might sound crazy because it is just hair, but it's important. You think of yourself in the way your hair looks and the way your face looks. So even though some of these things like gaining the extra weight or starting to get some wrinkles by the lack of estrogen in your body, even my teeth are moving. I mean, that is apparently a side effect of chemo. After all those years of braces when I was younger, now they are moving like crazy. When I take pictures and that's all I can see is that my teeth aren't perfect. It drives me crazy, but I have to remind myself they're just teeth. And the chemo hopefully killed the cancer in my body and was worth it. And these things such as wrinkles or extra weight or teeth or whatever it might be, they're just not as important as my health, and I try not to focus on them, but it is hard. It's hard. And so as silly as it might seem, getting my hair a little bit longer and straight is helpful. It makes me feel more like me when I look in the mirror, and maybe takes away from some of those other things that I'm trying to look at. But I guess what I'm just saying is we should all be easier on ourselves. None of us are perfect. And I'm worried about this weight. I'm worried about how my teeth look. I'm worried about how my face looks. I'm worried about the wrinkles I'm getting. I'm worried about how my hair looks with this weird hole that it has back here. But it's not going to stop me from getting on these videos and being open and honest, and hopefully spreading awareness for breast cancer, being someone that someone can talk to if they are also diagnosed, and also just encouraging women to get screened.
In November of 2019, we went hiking out west.
It's 8:15. Here we are about to leave on our road trip. We are exactly 1 mile into the trip and headed south.
I was super proud of myself and how much I was able to hike, although the heat still got to me a little bit. Around Christmas of 2019, my hair had gotten long enough that I was able to straighten it a lot more. This year, when packing for Florida, I included a hairbrush, a hairdryer, and a straightener. Very exciting. My hair was in an awkward stage for most of 2020. It wasn't curly, but it wasn't straight. But since we didn't do a lot in 2020, I guess it was a good time to have an awkward stage. In late April, I was able to tuck my bangs behind my ear for the first time. As I try to take something positive from my breast cancer experience, I love when people tell me that they got their mammograms. In June of 2020, I was so excited that my hair could be put into French braids. Sometimes I find myself worrying a lot about the cancer coming back, or being sad about the lasting side effects, but for the most part, I try to focus on the positives and live each day to the fullest.
Hey guys, it's Cissy. I'm about to leave the marina, go get my hair cut, hopefully get these crazy curls cut off the bottom. I just let it air dry last night, that's why it's extra crazy. And you can see these little bang pieces are really curly. So going to get a cut, see what it's gonna look like. Talk soon. What do you think? Back in the car, new do, a little bit in my eyes, but I like it, little bangs, a little more volume. No more chemo curls? Maybe, we'll see when I do it myself.
Look, I'm finally able to put my hair back in a tiny little ponytail.
Well, that's a lot of the chemo journey. I'm sure there are some things that I forgot that I wanted to say, but I can add them in or not. I guess what I want to let you know is you can do this. Chemo's hard. There's going to be bumps. You're going to lose your hair. I guess unless you do the cold cap, but I can't speak to that. But you can do this. You are strong. If you need someone to talk to, please feel free. You can email me or comment below and we can get in touch. I'm happy to talk to anyone. It's always good to talk to fellow survivors. I think it's good for both parties. Also, if you have any questions or anything you'd like me to talk about, feel free to ask. If you have a family member or a loved one and you're not sure what to do for them or how to help, let me know. I've got some ideas on that as well. And I just want to be an advocate for breast cancer, for getting screened, getting your mammogram, being an advocate for yourself, and just letting people know it does happen to younger women and that you can get through it and that we're here for you. I'm here for you. Lots of pink sisters are out there rooting for you. So get your mammogram. Talk soon.
Subscribe to the Cissy and Bud channel to hear more about Cissy's breast cancer journey. comment below with any questions you might have on breast cancer. Get your mammogram. Talk soon.